Hey everybody out there, you're tuned in to 91.8 The Fan. You're in my corner and I have a very awesome guest in the corner. Would you like to unveil your secret identity?
Oh, I didn't realize that my identity was a secret. This is very exciting. Let me take off my virtual mask and reveal myself as Janet Varney.
I like that. I could hear the mess rip in the background.
Thank you. I know I should have been more careful with it. Now I've torn it all to shreds.
Well, it's okay. I know how to sew and it's our fault, so I'll fix it for you, I promise.
Oh, this is wonderful. I also have some basic mending. Like I tore a hole in my tights the other day. I don't know if you can help me out with that.
I might be able to. I see, I'm one of those geeks who used to do the cosplay thing, so I have a little bit of sewing under my belt.
I love a cosplayer or two. That's always the coolest thing about going to Comic-Con type events is getting to see how people are dressed up in various costumes.
And some of those costumes are insane. Like I don't understand how people can do like the props that are like twice as big as them. That's pretty ridiculous.
You gotta mean it, especially in events like that, because it's so crowded that the second you commit to like wearing a giant costume where you're just bumping into people all the time, I mean, you really gotta want to.
Definitely. And then there's those costumes that even though they don't look that bad, they're made out of a fabric where you can't breathe. So, it's like 30 degrees outside, but you're still sweating.
You don't think people like to be suffocated by their own costumes?
Not usually.
You might be right.
Might be right. Well, are you a cosplayer? Do you have an interest in cosplaying ever in your future?
Well, I have to say I have not done it. I haven't done it. I sometimes I'm too lazy even to dress up for Halloween, but I do. I have said in the past that the costumes, all of the clothing on The Legend of Korra is so beautiful that someone handed me pretty much any of the outfits that get worn by the various characters on that cartoon. I would probably put it on happily, and by probably mean I absolutely would.
Well, and I would think Cora's outfit would be pretty comfy.
Yeah, I mean she's got to be able to do a lot of bending in it, so it's good looking, but it also does seem like it's very comfortable.
Definitely. Now, for the fans out there who might not be familiar with your body of work, I would like to take a phone booth or a DeLorean, you can pick, back into time to figure out what initially sparked your interest into acting.
Well, first of all, I can't. It's going to be very difficult for me to decide whether we take a DeLorean or a phone booth because I have a real affection for both of those references. Um, I have to go all the way back to when I was really little because I don't even remember why my dad chose to put me in a sort of a performing arts focused magnet school in Tucson, Arizona, where I was growing up. But from first grade on, I went to a school that kind of put an emphasis on fine arts and performing arts. And so when I was in first grade, I was in my first play, which was a sterling production of Snow White. At 5 years old, I'm very proud to say that I beat out all the other fantastic actresses for the part of Snow White and promptly was given a weird sort of Goodwill-esque curly brown wig that stuck onto my head, but all of my like white blonde bangs just poked out from underneath. I don't know why no one like addressed that. Maybe they thought it was adorable in some way to just for me to be like a hot mess. But I did portray Snow White, and I guess I caught the bug early, because I never really stopped performing after that.
That's kind of a hard production to do, I would think, at 5 years old.
I gotta tell you, I have very little memories of it, except for that terrible wig and the fact that the boy who played the prince was way shorter than me, which was pretty much what happened to me all the way through junior high. All the boys were always shorter because I'm fairly tall. Not so much now. I mean, now the guys have finally caught up, most of them. But I was taller than everybody for a long time in all the plays and at all the dances.
Did you have that too? Like for a good majority of my life, I was one of the tall kids. And then like I got to middle school, like late middle school, and I just stopped growing. So now people call me short and it pisses me off so much.
Oh, how tall are you?
I'm 5'5". I'm average.
Interesting. So you grew up early and then you stopped. Well, I'm 5'10", so I'm still pretty tall. Um, but I mean, I guess I'm tall enough that I could go beat up anybody who calls you short.
Awesome. I have a
Yeah,
ton of staff members who, they live in their mom's basement and they call me short. So I will
let
call
me
you
get
up.
on it.
Yes, I will call you up
Let
next
me
time that
get
happens.
down to that basement ASAP.
I promise they're all wimps because I have to whip them into shape.
Excellent. This is what I like to hear. Girl power.
Yes. Now, one of the things that a lot of actors do is they don't really take voice acting into consideration. So, how did you get into that field? Because a lot of people, it seems like it falls into their lap, or they take a class for it, or somebody's like, hey, you should try this.
Well, yeah, I didn't feel like, first of all, when I moved to Los Angeles, it was something that I had thought about because I love the idea of doing cartoon voices. I really loved that idea. I definitely felt like I wasn't qualified. I felt like I wouldn't know what I was doing. I found it intimidating. And so I sort of didn't pursue it right away for the first couple of years. But I did have a really great commercial agent who I still have, and they have a voiceover department. And at a certain point, I had a couple of friends who were on cartoons, and I was really envious. I just loved the idea of being able to be on a cartoon. And so I finally mustered up the courage to go into my commercial agent's office and say, listen, I don't really know what I'm talking about. I don't have a lot of experience in this world. I've done a couple of little voiceover things, but nothing major. But I really love the idea of being able to get into animation. And what do I do? I just sort of said, what would I need to do? And he said, well, we do have some classes that you can sign up for. So I did that. And he said, we will just, once you get those classes under your belt, we'll just try to get you some auditions. And so they, true to their word, they started bringing me in to audition for stuff. It's tough, they sort of, it's just, I guess it's the same as on camera stuff, but they sort of said, give yourself some time to be rejected constantly before you get anything. And yes, that is the case. I auditioned for a lot of stuff and didn't really get very far. And then eventually I started booking some little things here and there, and nothing really major until I got a different Nickelodeon pilot that did not go forward. And then a year after that, I got Cora. And I mean, I know that everything I just described makes it seem like it was a long time, and that I put the time in, and I was rejected a ton, and all of that's true. But I tell you, once it's for a job like Core to come along, all of that sort of disappeared, and all of a sudden it just felt like I'd won the lottery. So it still feels like I'm the luckiest person in the world because I just couldn't feel more strongly about how gorgeous and special of a show it is. And every single day that I do anything on it, I just feel so lucky to be a part of it. So, it took a little time for me to get into the voiceover world, but I'm so fortunate that I ended up with the job that I have because I couldn't ask for anything better.
Well, it makes sense too because Avatar had a huge fan base going into the show. So I'm sure, assuming they told you what it was during the audition, I know some auditions are really super secret, like we won't even show you a picture. You must have been over the moon just to be able to audition for it.
I was so excited, and I didn't realize that the show had already been picked up when I auditioned for it. So I thought I was just auditioning for a pilot. So even when I got the part, um, I mean, I'm sure this was by no fault of anyone in my in my team of people. I'm sure it was something I overlooked because you're so used to kind of preparing yourself for disappointment that I which is did in process that had been picked up for episodes that was already going to go on the air. But when I got the part, my agent called to tell me I was at Joanne's Crafts. I'm a very crafty person. I feel like I was in the aisle of beads, probably buying some beads to put on something or to make a necklace or something. And he called to tell me that I got it, and I literally like jumped up and down and was like so happy. I'm sure I made a complete spectacle of myself there at that craft store. And I said, "Oh my gosh, this is so exciting! You know, I can't wait. Hopefully, it'll go and it'll get picked up." And he was like, "What? No, it's already going to be picked up. We've got it's like 13 episodes. You're going to be going on the air." And I first of all felt like a complete idiot for not knowing that already, but then I was like, "Oh, this is just too good to be true. Like, am I dreaming?"
Well, the only plus side I can see to that is that hopefully there's another craft store nearby so you don't go to the other one and feel embarrassed. I'm just saying.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? They should welcome me back with open arms because I expressed unbridled enthusiasm and joy, and nobody loses when somebody is sharing that emotion, I think.
I have to agree a little bit there. So, you get to be a part of the show where you get to be a very strong female lead. You don't really fall into a trope of say like ditzy or over sexualized or anything like that. So that must have been interesting to get a chance to take a look at the character and be like, oh, this is a well-developed character that, girls can look up to, and it's not necessarily like the princess type, for instance.
Yeah, I mean that again, that was like a total lottery win. I love Cora. I'm so pleased that she is both strong and vulnerable. I think it's so special and cool that Mike and Brian, the creators of the show, created this flawed character that I think people can really relate to. Young people and adults alike. Someone who maybe has a lot of confidence in some situations, but is also fragile and maybe too hard on themselves in other situations, and really can be stubborn and let their temper get the better of them. All those kind of things that make a person human. I'm not really interested in a superhero who we always talk about the hero with the tragic flaw. I don't know that anybody really wants to see somebody who's just perfect all the time. We want to see people who, maybe have gifts that we wish we had, but also represent the sides of us that we know that we need to work on. And hopefully, someone like Cora kind of reminds people that everybody should be on a path, that you're never done. You're never done becoming the person that you want to be.
I can see that. And, this is a US cartoon, and most of the time you guys get to record together. You guys didn't record separately, correct?
We 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 get to work together as much as possible. Everybody's really busy, and we're really fortunate to have such an amazing cast of people who are constantly working on other shows and films and stuff. But Nickelodeon really tries to make a priority of putting us in the recording studio together so that we can really interact and really act with one another. So it just depends on who's in town, but I think very, very rarely have I just gone in and done a recording session where it's just been me. I mean, that's extremely rare. Generally, there are at least, three other people that I get the opportunity to work with, whether it's David Faustino or PJ Byrne or Mindy Sterling. Occasionally, we're blessed with J.K. Simmons, but he's like the busiest guy in show business. So we don't get to see him as much. And Seychelle Gabriel, who plays Asami, half the year she's in Vancouver shooting her television show, so I don't get to see her as much as I would like, but when she comes back into town, she is there as well for the recording sessions. And I think that that kind of interaction, I do think shows. I think it makes a difference when you've got a show like this that really is very plot-driven, very character-driven, and there's a lot of emotion, a lot of high stakes and stuff like that happening. I think it really helps to get people, in the same room together.
I agree. I mean, We are so used to talking about anime or video games on the show, and obviously the recording sessions are usually done, separately. You maybe see that one person as you're going into the session and they're coming out. So I think it's nice to see the difference in chemistry when the voice actors get to work together.
I agree, and I really appreciate that about Nickelodeon, that they recognize that and that they make it important.
And it obviously has made a big impact on people. I feel like anytime I go out, I can't not see the show. It was hilarious. I was at the Consumer Electronics Show last week and I saw like a bunch of Sony TVs at the Sony booth that were all playing the show.
I love hearing that. I love hearing that.
It was just kind of funny to me because it seems so out of place with all like the hardcore trailers they were playing, like Iron Man and everything else, and then here we've got cartoons. And it
Yep,
was all
love it.
Korra.
Love it. I'm grinning from ear to ear.
Well, have you gotten a chance to hear about the fans' reaction at all? Like, have you gotten any emails or any shouts on Facebook or anything?
Oh yes, I'm very, very lucky. I think we have amazing fans. I always love getting fan mail. I've got some beautiful hand drawn art from 5-year-olds all the way up to people in their 30s. I've got great Twitter followers who keep me abreast of what's going on in the fan world. Um, it's been phenomenal. I feel so lucky to have, I'm sure there are people out there that can't stand me, but luckily I don't get exposed to those people as much, or at all. And instead, I've just been really, really blessed to, be able to interact with people who love the show, who love what Mike and Brian have, the world that they've created, and who seem to be, okay with what my vocal contribution is to the show.
Well, I'm sure all the fans are very excited for the next season, which I know we probably can't talk about at all, because ninjas are outside your window. So
Right?
let's just say, let's just say that the fans are probably very ecstatic for that, and I'm sure you are too.
Very, very excited about it. We've already recorded it. It's being animated and completed. I don't know even the exact air date. They don't tell us much more than they tell you guys. Um, but I'm so excited about where the story goes, and you'll meet some new characters and experience some kind of new environments. And you're right, I'm not allowed to say too much more than that, but I really, really feel passionately about how great the second season is, and I think everybody's going to be really excited.
Well, from a fan's perspective, I will say I'm curious where they go with the evildoer because Amon was such a badass that I pretty much assumed that he would be the main evil guy for all four books. But they wrap that up pretty nicely, so
Yep, we know that's not happening.
yeah, I'm pretty curious where that goes. But obviously, we will have to sit tight and wait until they announce an official air date because I'm pretty sure right now it's just sometime in 2013.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yep.
And now, for the listeners out there who want to keep up to date with what you're doing, do you have any projects that you're currently working on that you can talk about, or anything that you recently released that you want them to know about?
Well, I'm very, very proud of my podcast. It's called the JV Club. It is available on iTunes. It's available through the Nerdist Network. There's a Facebook page. If you search the JV Club, there is a Pinterest account linked to that. There is a book club. I'm on Twitter at Janet Varney, and then the podcast is at JV Club Podcast. And it's a podcast where I only interview women, which is something that I didn't necessarily set out to do, but as the shape of the podcast started to form, it just seemed like kind of a cool opportunity to be specific in that way because there are not a lot of female voices in the podcasting world. And we generally sort of use what our adolescence was like as a jumping off point for conversation. And the sort of impetus behind it was, I was looking around at all these like phenomenal women that I get the opportunity to work with either in this business or outside of the industry, but who are doing extraordinary things, and really feeling like these are people who are setting great examples for young men and women everywhere. but it just seems like universally everybody sort of had the same kind of rough teenagerhood, and some of those things don't necessarily change as much as you think they're going to, but maybe you just have the tools to combat them better as you get older. And I thought, what a great opportunity to talk to some of these folks that everybody thinks, kind of live these golden lives, and hear them talk about their own vulnerabilities and what their experience was like growing up, and hopefully share some encouragement with people who are still trying to find their way, to know that we're all very much the same in that, and that everybody has their faults and their foibles and their weaknesses and their vulnerabilities, and that they can feel supported as they kind of pursue their dreams, knowing that we all go through that stuff.
Well, that sounds very deep and pretty enlightening. And now I know.
It's
Now I know
also
the girl
very, very
powers.
silly. Yeah, there's
Oh,
also
very
a lot of
silly.
very silly stuff that happens. So worry not, because it's still completely goofy, because I'm a total dork.
Well, I can think of horrible things that are silly now that happened to me in middle school and high school, so that makes a lot of sense.
Um, yeah, exactly.
That one time where I accidentally walked into the boys' bathroom. Oh, that was so fun. Anyway, so you can be found on Twitter. Do you do Facebook or do you have an official website or anything like that?
I do. I have an official website that's just janetvarney.com. And I also am on Facebook. I'm on Facebook, but I would recommend the JV Club page for Facebook. That's where I spend most of my time when I'm on Facebook.
And now for the listeners who are very brave, or the fans who are very brave and want to sit in a bush and stalk you, do you have any events coming up?
Well, I'm glad that you asked. I welcome that. I would say you don't need to sit in a bush. You can come right out of the open and say hello if you come to the San Francisco Sketch Comedy Festival, or I'm sorry, it's the San Francisco Comedy Festival. SF Sketch Fest is the name. I've been doing it for 12 years. I think that I would remember the name of my own festival. But it is up in San Francisco. It takes place from January 24th to February 10th of this year. So we're just about getting ready to open up our festival. It's quite long, as you can tell from the dates, and we have events basically every single day and night. And I will be doing a live version of my podcast there on the 1st of February. I will also be doing improv live with some cast members from The Office, from Christopher Guest films, from The Big Bang Theory. That will be on Saturday night, February 9th. And I'm also doing the opening night show with the guys from Mystery Science Theater 3000 in a show on January 24th, where we watch old movies at this beautiful 1,400-seat theater in San Francisco called the Castro Theater. We basically watch old movies and make fun of them live, which is really
The
fun.
art of riff tracks.
So the art of, we love our riff tracks. And there are also MP3 versions of some movies that I've covered in the past with my writing partner and festival co-producer, Cole Stratton, that you can get by visiting rifftracks.com. So I'll be doing a bunch of live events during the festival. I'm also just there pretty much every single night producing shows. So I'm around. I highly recommend people come check out the festival. San Francisco is a great city, and it's a great opportunity to come see some live comedy.
Well, fans, you heard it here, so make sure that you stalk in a nice way so we don't get blamed for anything that happens. I'm just saying.
Perfect. Good disclaimer. Really good disclaimer.
So now we have a tradition here on 91.8 The Fan. I just said the name of our station wrong, and I haven't done that in 3 years.
Oh, just like me when I called my festival the wrong thing. Oh, you're among friends.
I have never done that before. Let me start that one over. Thank God it's a pre-record. Okay, we have we have a tradition here on 91.8 The Fan where we ask anyone, whether they're a voice actor or not, if they'd be willing to do a radio bump for us.
Oh, sure.
Awesome. The trick of it, however, is that we ask you to do the takes live on air, so if you mess up, everybody hears it.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I love messing up, so this is going to be a real joy.
We basically ask if you could say, hello, my name is, you put your name here, I do this, You can say anything you want. You're an actor, you're on this, you're this character. It's up to you. Complete improv. And you're tuned into 91.8 The Fan. So whenever you're
Hey guys.
ready.
Okay.
Skype
91.8 the
flag.
fan. 91.8 the fan. 91.8 the fan. Guys, this is Janet Varney. I play Cora on Nickelodeon's marvelous show, The Legend of Cora. I'm also the host of the JV Club podcast on the Nerdist Network. You can be very sure that you are tuned into 91.8 the fan, or my name isn't Janet Varney, which, as I previously said, it is.
Oh, that's perfect. Sorry about that.
Fantastic.
We have wonderful Skype lag, and you are one of the rare people. We've done about over 350 of these, and I think you're above like 250 voice actors in terms of actually getting the numbers right.
I'm delighted. Well, listen, I like to win out whenever possible. I like to beat the best. That's not true. Uh, but I'm thrilled that I got through it with minimal harm done.
Definitely. And for the listeners out there, do you have any parting words, any words of wisdom, dating advice, anything like that you'd like to leave them with?
Oh, dating advice. Uh, words of wisdom. Oh gosh. I don't know. You know what? I'm just going to say take it easy on yourself. I think a lot of people listening out there are probably pretty rough on themselves. I think that's a very human thing to do. So ask yourself, am I being gentle with myself? Oh, that's so hippie. I love it.
Bohemian chic.
Indeed.
And thank you very much for this. This was a lot of fun.
My pleasure. I had a great time.
And for anybody out there that missed any of this interview, shame on you, but don't fret, it'll be up on the website within the next few days, so keep it tuned to 91.8 The Fan. Everything you want and nothing you don't.